the end table plan of procedure step 5, which is sanding the parts that we've made up to this point. I've got the 4 legs here, and some things that we need to look at is that there are some cut marks and there's burn marks in the wood from cutting the taper on these legs. Cut marks and burn marks, and we're going to use some rough sandpaper, some coarse sandpaper to get rid of those marks and just do the first sanding on this. We'll do the final sanding later on in the process, but this gets everything sanded down so that it's ready to put together. I've got a finish sander here. It's got 80 grit sandpaper on it. That's what we're going to be using right now, and we'll just sand these up so that they look a lot better and get rid of those marks. It really doesn't take very long. Just a couple things to think about and remember when you're sanding is you want to move with the grain of the wood as much as possible, okay? And on the legs, the grain of the wood goes this direction, this way. I've got pencil marks that I'm going to get rid of and just kind of smooth this all out. And I'll just do this one leg here real quick. Shouldn't take very long. Okay, so now this leg here is looking smooth on this side. There was a burn mark right here. It was kind of black. That's all gone now. So you would just continue with all the legs, doing all 4 sides until they look great, and then you'll move on to the other items on a different machine. All right, so I've now sanded all of these, and I've gotten all the burn marks out of them, and they're looking good. I've got one spot right here on this one where you can see lines that are kind of going this way from the saw blades. So I still need to sand just a little bit more. It's around a knot area. Knot areas tend to be harder, and you have to sand them a little bit more. So I'm gonna sand this for just a second here. Now it's looking a lot better. All of these are ready to go. All the burn marks are out of them. Everything, all the hard stuff to sand out is out. And so we're ready to keep going on the process of putting the legs together with the sides and back, and then we'll do more sanding on them after it's assembled. All right, we're here at the surface sander. I've got the D-ring and the sides and the back. We need to sand these down. When we went through the surface planer on them, we took them down to 13/16. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the surface sander here to sand them down to 3/4 of an inch, which is their actual thickness that we need them. All right, so to turn on the surface sander, I've got steps listed here that you need to follow. Number 1, it says to turn on the air valve. Now this air valve is at the back of the machine. So if we walk around to the back of the machine here, we'll see that there is an air valve that's this white valve. It has to be going with the pipe, and you'll hear the air start. Okay, so we got air flowing now. Step 2 is to turn on the power. Now the power isn't found here to the machine. The power is found over here by the brooms on this gray box. And we need to have this up to the on position. And now when we go back to the sander, we can see that there is power to the machine. The lights are lit up on the gauge. So now we're ready to go to the next step. The next step, 3, is gauge the board thickness. This is the most important step. You must gauge the board thickness, and what that does is it sets the thickness, the height of the table to the thickness of the material that you're going to be surfacing. If you don't gauge the board thickness, you can destroy the belt, sanding belt, and cause problems with the rollers and other components in the machine. You've got to do this. Make sure that you do this the way I'm doing it here. Now, we're going to start with the D-ring here. The reason for that is it's just a little bit thicker at the joints than, say, the sides and the back. And so we're going to find the thickest joint, which happens to be this one right here, and we're going to gauge right around this joint. And here's how you do it. So we've got this little gauge symbol here, and there's 2 pins down here. Okay? Right now the table's too high to get this inside of the gauge, so we're going to use the down arrow, and we're going to make the table go down and create more space. So I'm going to push and hold the down arrow, and notice that the numbers change. We've got a lot more space, and now I can slide this in here. Okay? Between the 2 pins, I'm going to hold it down tight here, and now I'm going to hold the up arrow until it goes and stops. So hold the up arrow, it'll run up, and it'll automatically stop where it needs to stop. So now we can run this through. Okay? Pull it out. Now, the D-ring here has grain going both directions. So it really doesn't matter which way you put it, whereas the sides and the back have the grain going this direction. You always want the grain to go into the machine. Okay? So we go that way if possible. The D-ring, we'll just have to do whichever way, and part of it will be sanding across the grain, and part of it will be sanding with the grain. I'm going to go turn on the dust collector, and we'll start sanding this through, and I'll show you the process of raising the table 1 increment at a time as we flip the board to make it down, and then we'll measure to make sure we get it down to the right thickness. All right, so I have the dust collector on now. I'm ready to go. We got it gauged. And to turn the machine on, I'm going to press both green buttons. One turns the belt on the inside, and one turns the belt to help the material go through. Just push both buttons. I'm going to send it through. Go and catch it on the other side. This side is actually sanded pretty well. I've got just a little bit of unevenness right here. We're going to have to send it through a couple more times, but I'm going to flip it. And then I'm going to press the up arrow button 1 time. Don't hold it down, just press it once. And it will reset and go 5/1000ths of an inch smaller. Now I send this through on the other side. Okay, we're still not quite sanded down all the way, but we need to start using our tape measure. We want this to 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to measure and see how close we are. We're still got a little bit to go is what it's showing here. I'm going to double check. We've got just over 30 seconds to go. So we need to do this probably 4 more times. Turn it over, raise the bed 1 more time. Notice I'm using different areas. It sands better if you don't do it all at the same spot. Flip it, raise it again. You may need to measure if it's looking pretty close, but I think I've got plenty of room yet. measure again. I'm getting pretty close. So take a look at it, concentrate on where you need to sand the most. Right here I've still got pencil mark. So obviously this side is not as flat as the other side. We're going to concentrate on this side the most. Should be about there now. And that's looking, maybe one more pass on the other side and I think we'll be good. Looks great. So now, turn it off. I'm going to go through the same process for the sides and the back. Only this time I'm going to send them all through at the same time, and I won't show you the whole process, but the setup I'll show you again, okay? So, I'm going to lower the bed again. These are all the same thickness, so I'm just going to put one in, hold it down, up arrow, hold it down, raise it up until it stops. And now we're ready to go for all three of these, and I can just send these through all three together at the same time. Now it's just a matter of going through the same process, raise it, flip them over, send them through, and then measure, make sure that you're stopping it right at 3/4 of an inch is the best place to stop. I'll stop there. There's the process of sanding them down to 3/4 of an inch.